another Facebook Live edition. Yours truly, Smith, and y'all already know I am host of the number one podcast in the state of Kansas. No, it hasn't been confirmed, but I'm just claiming that it is the number one podcast in the state of Kansas based on my guests that have been on there. A lot of love from the high school athletes and the communities of both Derby and May South. So for that, I have to say thank you for your support. Also, shout out to Wichita, Kansas Odyssey Group for bringing me on board as a part-time fill-in talk show host. Appreciate that. I'm elated. I've already had one gig with them already, and it was a blast. Looking forward to more of those. But I believe it's my podcast team that has gotten me into places that I normally wouldn't be able to get into. So I want to thank all of my guests. Appreciate you more than you will ever know. I want to get into a topic that is, well, let's just say it is controversial. The issue of transgender athletes. I know that in itself is going to be eyebrow raising. I may, in the long term, lose some friends. I may gain some friends. One thing I will say is this: whatever my views is and whatever my beliefs is, it should have no bearing on what you believe, because at the end of the day, we all have a right to believe what we want to believe. I'm just cut from a different moral fabric. Uh, my dad, some of you who looking at me right now who know me, know my dad was the pastor of a church. One of the things he used to always say in the sermons, he says, morals and values don't change. Let me repeat that. Morals and values don't change. People do. What I want to look at is, first of all, in order to speak on something, you have to know what the definition of it is. So, I'm going to look at both sides. What is the definition of a transgender male athlete? Well, a transgender male athlete is an individual who was assigned female at birth. That's AFAB, but identifies as a man or male. They may or may not have undergone hormone therapy or gender affirming surgeries as part of their transition. In the context of sports, transgender male athletes are typically competing in men's categories or divisions. However, there may be specific rules or regulations regarding their participation, particularly in competitive or professional sports. For example, the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, has established guidelines for transgender athletes to compete in the Olympics. According to the IOC, transgender male athletes must 1. Declare their gender, identify as male; 2. Have undergone hormone therapy to lower their testosterone levels to a certain threshold less than 10 nanomoles per liter for at least 1 year. Provide documentation from a medical professional confirming their gender, identity, and hormone levels. Similar guidelines may exist in other sports organizations or leagues, aiming to ensure fair competition while also supporting inclusivity inclusivity for transgender athletes. Well, so what is the definition of a transgender female athlete? A transgender female athlete is an individual who was assigned male at birth, AMAB, but identifies as a woman or a female. They may or may not have undergone hormone therapy or gender affirming surgeries as part of their transition. In the context of sports, transgender female athletes are typically competing in women's categories or divisions. However, there may be specific rules or regulations regarding their participation, particularly in competitive or professional sports. For example, the International Olympic Committee (IOC) has established guidelines transgen- for transgender athletes to compete in Olympics. According to the IOC, transgender female athletes must declare their identity as female, have undergone hormone therapy to raise their testosterone levels or lower their uh, to raise their estrogen levels or lower their testosterone levels to certain thresholds less than 5 nanomoles per liter, or at least 1 year. Provide documentation from medical professional confirming their gender identity and hormone levels. Similar guidelines may exist in other sports organizations or league aiming to ensure their fair competition while also supporting inclusive inclusivity for gender athletes. So there is the definition by the letter of the law as to what transgender athletes are and what they have to go through to qualify. The scary part of the scary part for me is this right here, and we're going to share some articles here with you. The scary part for me is what if they don't keep their levels where their levels are supposed to be? Because at the end of the day, you have to realize a man is still a man and a woman is still a woman. And the scary part for me is if their levels aren't in check, and let's say someone skips a check, and let's just bring up, let me see, who can I bring up here? State of Vermont, in other words. In the state of Vermont, a ladies basketball team, high school basketball team, decided to forfeit their game because they didn't want to play a team that had a transgender athlete on the team. Looking at some of those video clips, it was quite understandable why they wouldn't want to, because of the simple fact that this particular player was very dominant, elbowing the other girls on the court, uh, knocking the girls over. It was basically an unfair advantage. Now, to some extent, maybe you're saying, well, that may be the exception, but we don't know what else may be going on across this country in regards to that very same instance as to what is actually taking place on the court with transgender athletes, which is why me personally, I'm not a fan of it. Do I have a dog in the fight as of right now? No, I don't. I do have a granddaughter. Who's to say, Lord forbid, she decides to play sports and there's a transgender athlete and they are very physically dominant? I think I would have an issue with that. So, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring up the article. That way, I can some uh, give you some more information on that situation. As a high school girls basketball team forfeits, and I'm about to pull that up. And here is this story right here: a Vermont Christian school banned over transgender player forfeit. So let's just take a look at this story and how it played out. This happened back in February, but it's part of today's news of what's going on with transgender athletes and That's why I'm taking a deep dive into this. So, the girls' high school basketball coach banned for forfeiting game over transgender player has no regrets, asking for injury. The coach of a Vermont high school girls basketball team that was banned from state athletics after forfeiting a game against a squad with a trans player defended the decision, stressing the danger of a biological male playing against girls. He says, I've got four daughters. I've coached them all at one point in their careers playing high school basketball. Chris Goodwin, coach of the girls team at Mid Vermont Christian School, said on Fox and Friends. He says, I've also filled in for the boys coach when he can't make a practice. And I run those practices, and boys just play at a different speed, a different force than the girls play. It's a different game, he said, adding that it would be irresponsible in asking for an injury to a smaller female athlete. The private school declined to play Long Trail in a February 21, 2023 Division 4 playoff game because it believed that competing against a team with a biological male jeopardizes the fairness of the game and the safety of our players. The Vermont Principals Association banned Vermont from all athletic events as a result of the team's refusal to face the trans player, and the school later filed a lawsuit against state officials. The VPA, which is the Vermont Principals Association, told CNN in a statement that the school has every right to teach its beliefs to its own students. It cannot, however, impose those beliefs on students from other public and private schools. Now, first of all, that's where I have an issue with right there because they said that they have every right to teach its own beliefs to its own students, but it cannot, however, impose those beliefs. First of all, if I forfeit, how am I imposing my beliefs off on another person? That's what I want to know. If I forfeit, that's on me. That means the other team wins. That's not me gathering up the other team in a huddle or any other teams that feel the way saying, "Look, we're all going to forfeit because we don't believe that." No, I'm forfeiting for the sake of my team. That is not me forcing. Since when did forfeiting a game? I got to ask this question. Since when did forfeiting a game constitute pushing my beliefs off on someone else? Let me ask this question. If the team that had the trans athlete decided that they didn't want to play against the team that forfeited against them because they didn't have a transgender athlete, would they be also deemed as forcing their beliefs on someone else? When you look at the ruling that came down on this Vermont team that did forfeit, something tells me they would probably get a pass. Once again, it says it cannot, however, impose those beliefs on students from other public, private schools. Deny students from other schools the opportunity to play or hurt students from other schools of who because of who those students are. But Goodwin defended the decision to forfeit the game. After discussions with the administration and our players and parents, we decided that instead of going against our religious beliefs, that there are differences between male and female, which I do agree. We are created differently. We decided to forfeit that game and withdraw from the tournament, he said. And at that point, the state of Vermont governing body kicked us out of all competitions in the state, the coach added. The small school located in Quechee, I believe that's pronounced right, Queechee, claimed it was irreparably harmed by being denied participation and losing out on playing competitive sports as well as academic competition, states its lawsuit, which was filed by Alliance Defending Freedom. ADF is a Christian legal advocacy group that works to defend and preserve freedom of speech, to expand Christian practices within public schools and in government, outlaw abortion, and curtail LGBTQ rights. Its website states Mid Vermont argued that VPA was denying the Christian school and its students from participating in the state's tuition program and sports league because of their religious beliefs. The state is entitled to its own views, but it is not entitled, nor is it constitutional, to force private religious schools across the state to follow that orthodoxy as a condition to participating in Vermont's tuition program and the state's athletic association, the lawsuit states. The VPA has since kicked the school out of the association. 18 state legislators have banned trans students from competing in high school sports, according to Movement Advancement Project. Vermont is one of the few states that allow it. Ryan Tucker, an attorney with Alliance Defending Freedom, expressed his confidence that the school will win the case. The state is basically attempting to purge individuals like Chris and other family members in the state from public discourse, from the ability to speak out on issues of significant public concern, he said on Fox and Friends, where he accused the state of failing to consider the biological reality and the health and safety risks to female athletes. We're very confident that we're going to prevail, Tucker added. Post has reached out to the VPA for comments. So that's just the first part of this. I'm going to try not to be too lengthy. What I may do, I may, for another day, uh, give you the rest of this story. When I say the rest of the story, because I am looking into this, I want to make sure I get all sides and let you, the listening or viewing public, have your say in what you think. Once again, like I say, morals and values don't change. People do. Uh, However, there was one individual of high profile who I believe, if she was in the state of Vermont, would probably side with what the state did in their banning this school from playing in further state and academic endeavors. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about none other than coach of the national championship winning Gamecocks of University of South Carolina, Coach Don Staley. She was asked, and there are several issues on this with Don Staley. It says, and at first surprise, Don Staley said, "Damn, you got deep on me, didn't you?" Then after a pause, she said, "I'm of the opinion of if you're a woman, you should play. If you consider yourself a woman and you want to play sports or vice versa, you should be able to play. That's my opinion." That is Coach Don Staley defends trans athlete. So let's get into this part. Don Staley, 53, is already regarded as one of the greatest coaches in the history of college basketball. That's what happens when you lead your school to 3 national championships, 2 in the last 3 years. And this year's iteration of the South Carolina Gamecocks went undefeated along the way. Unless some NBA front office is smart enough to break both a sexist tradition and the bank to hire her, if that's even an ambition for Staley. Her ascension to the Mount Rushmore of college coaches seems predestined. She built the South Carolina program from scratch over 16 seasons and turned it into a gritty powerhouse that reflects her own South Carolina born, Philadelphia made Hall of Fame playing style. As a player, Staley walked and talked tough. As a coach, she walks with strength and talks with a no BS clarity that commands attention. Staley's stature has never been greater, which make her recent words in defense of trans athletes so important. When a somehow credentialed right wing troll in the press room asked her the day before Sunday's championship game against Iowa whether biological males should be able to play women's sports, she did not equivocate. At, at, and at first, surprised, Staley said, "Damn, you got deep on me, didn't you?" Then, after a pause, she said, "I'm of the opinion if you're a woman, you should play. If you consider yourself a woman and you want to play sports or vice versa, you should be able to play. That's my opinion. You want me to go deeper?" When pressed again by the same person about whether transgender women should be allowed on the playing field, Staley was empathetic while also acknowledging the backlash she would receive. Yes, yes, Staley said. So now, the barnstormer people are going to flood my timeline and be a distraction to me on one of the biggest days of our game, and I'm okay with that. I really am. That last part, acknowledging the backlash as well as potential for distraction and saying, and I'm okay with that, I really am, is more than smooth. It's modeling a response to those kinds of questions. Staley's comments upset all the right people, especially the professional hacks who, driven by hatred, profit, publicity addiction, or some rancid stew of the threes, rushed to the nearest right wing cable TV cameras to denounce Staley's principle of inclusion. It's been high comedy to see the leading intellectual lights of the facets right sputter that Staley is a traitor, sellout, and disgrace to women's hoops. When it's a sport none of these people seem to have ever watched or supported. Their efforts to paint Staley as the Antichrist were also muted by the reality that, as anyone who actually follows the sports knows, Staley praises Jesus whenever the mood strikes her. I think there's way too much religion in sports, but Staley can say whatever the heck she wants. Also, to these keyboard character assassins, face plant so spectacularly in trying to paint Staley as some kind of radical has been almost as amusing as the women's tournament was thrilling. The eruption in fan interest in college women's hoops is the backdrop for all of this, and it amplifies Staley's response. The 2024 tournament could someday be remembered as a dramatic pivot in the mass appeal of women's sports. The athletic industrial complex finally woke up to the fact that there exists not only Iowa's Caitlin Clark and her incredible shooting range, but also an entire generation of incredibly skilled and improbably charismatic players. The final garnered almost 19 million viewers with a peak of 24 million, a far higher number than the World Series, the NBA Finals, more than a few NFL games, and by a wide margin, the men's final. A wondrous as Clark has been, there is something appropriate about seeing Staley and the Gamecocks at the top of the mountain. To see Staley receive so much appreciation whilst securely bottom feeders shoot rubber arrows in her direction says something about the power of women's sports. It also speaks to Staley's political outrage, a courage that understands that the coordinated attack on trans kids and the eliminationist perspective of the far right must always be challenge. So I know I gave you that whole article, but it goes back to what Don Staley has said. And at first, surprise Staley said, "Damn, you got deep on me, didn't you?" Then, after a pause, she said, "I'm of the opinion of if you're a woman, you should play. If you consider yourself a woman and you want to play sports or vice versa, you should be able to play. That's my opinion." That's her opinion. Can I share some with you? Me and her do not share the same opinion. I'm pretty sure if I met her, would there be any animosity? No, there wouldn't be any animosity. I would say hi to her. I'd be respectful to her, and I'm going about my way. Now, if she engages me in conversation about the issue, I would tell her my reasoning from a safety standpoint. It has nothing to do with me being a leftist. It has nothing to do with me being a rightist. Hell, I could care less about the terminologies. I'm pretty sure I would have intellectual dialogue and dialect with Coach Staley. And at the end of the day, we would walk away and we would agree to disagree. Because I'm looking after the safety of my own granddaughter. Thank God she's not of age to where she's stepping into sports right now. But if she was, and I see a trans athlete out there and really just bullying my granddaughter around, chances are I am going to get kicked out of the gym because I'm going to bring attention to what is going on. I'm going to bring the unfairness to it. Uh, if there are procedures that they're supposed to go through and they have not been met, my granddaughter gets hurt at the hands of one, there's going to be an issue. So, yes, some things I just take a stand on, and this is one of them right here. Uh, there is more I want to get to, but I don't want to bore you long because as it stands right now, I have been on here for almost 30 minutes, and I'm pretty sure I've given you enough to where you can weigh in with your comments. Uh, like I say, I'm not going to frown down on you because you believe different from me. I'm giving you the opportunity to voice your opinion by leaving your comments in the comment section. Uh, you see that like button below? Push the like button, subscribe to my channel, share this with as many people as you can. I want this to go viral. Yes, I want to be said that I mentioned Don Staley's name in my podcast. I want her to get wind of this. I want her to even leave comments. Like I said, I don't have no animosity toward her. She believes what she wants to believe. Like she said, that's her opinion. My opinion and her opinion are two different opinions. It's not going to take away anything from me that I think she's one hell of a basketball coach. She's a Hall of Fame coach. She should be on that Mount Rushmore of coaches, male or female. I mean, hey, we're giving Caitlin Clark records saying she surpassed both male and female. So why come we can't do the same for Don Staley? Even though me and her have a difference in opinions on this transgender issue. Not going to take away nothing from her coaching ability and nothing from me to applaud her on a job that she's doing as a coach. But I've spent far much time on this issue than I really expected to. I just want to get in here and get out of here. But when you have something good and you have some content and you want the public to be, hey, I want you guys to chime in. I really do. But do it like this. Do a favor. Do it in a respectful manner. If I see that there are shots being taken at people, I will delete your comments. I have the right to do that. This is my channel. My guidelines are simple: be respectful of each other. Well, until the next time, take care of yourself and each other. Have respect for each other, but always stand on your moral beliefs. Always stand on your values, even in a world where there seems to be no morals or values. Stand on yours. Until next time, I'm out. God bless.